Like
What sort of things are you looking for that you're not finding?
I think it's hard to find guys that have direction, have purpose, have goals and values that are aligned with what my goals and values are. Um,
Let me just
I
stop you
think
there
that
for a
would be the
sec.
biggest thing.
So you want a driven man that is aligned with your goals and values. So what are your goals and values?
I would say the biggest thing is my goals are to have a family. I want to get married, and I'm looking for someone who primarily, hopefully, is Christian and holds those values as well, because I think that that's very fundamental to having the sort of family that I'm looking for. And that's hard. Those things are hard to find with what we're sifting through right now.
what
Okay,
kind
so
of
you're
what kind of
finding
age range are you typically
unmotivated.
dating in,
Yeah.
Jillian? What kind
Go
of
ahead,
age
Mom.
range typically?
That's interesting. I mean, my last boyfriend was 24, so that's probably
And
What
how
are you doing with
recently
a
was that?
24-year-old if you're 35
it's a
and
great
you want to have a
question.
family? Like that's not really
Yeah.
aligned with that goal, is it?
Well, at the time, I thought it was.
You honestly thought a 24-year-old wanted to have children with a 35-year-old?
That's what he said, and I believed him, and
Just like when guys say that I can just be friends with you. You also believe that still?
Sure, yeah, but I mean, he treated me really well. Like, I wouldn't say it was a bad relationship. It was pretty positive for the most part, but obviously, at the end of the day, it's like he was not ready for those things.
Yeah,
So,
he's 24.
I mean, yeah. So, um, I'm definitely looking my age and older is really
So
what I'm.
what do you bring to the table at 35 that a guy, should contemplate because, you're on this mission to have a family and kids?
I love that question.
Yeah, I think a few things. Like, I'm definitely really family oriented. I have a great family. My values are very traditional. Like, and from what I'm finding too, like, especially like dating and like meeting different guys, they don't really meet a lot of girls like that either. So it's kind of refreshing for them, and it's refreshing for me when I meet someone that has some of those same things that are in alignment. But I mean, those are the main ones. Like, I make good money, like I have a good career. Like, there's a lot of things that I think
You're essentially
would make
describing a
me.
man, though.
Jillian, most guys are not generally concerned with how much money or the type of career or the number of degrees that their woman has. It's just not something that they're generally screening for or looking for. It's not an attraction trigger that men have in women. It's an attraction trigger that women look for and screen for in men. But often what a lot of women's a common pitfall that a lot of women have is that they take the traits that they look for in men and they think that they need to embody those same traits. And as we established at the beginning of the show, men and women are different and they look at each other differently. And there's different standards that apply. It'd be the same thing if it was like, well, I want a really feminine woman who gets her hair done all the time and keeps her nails long and wears makeup and, wears tight little skirts. That's what I need to wear so I can attract a woman. I mean, on no planet would that ever work. I mean, there's no woman that's going to be attracted to me for looking like and acting like a woman.
I think that's totally fair. That's part of the reason why that wouldn't be the first thing I listed. However, I would say that, I guess most men that I interact with, they seem appreciative of the fact that I seem to have my shit together, I guess.
Would you like to be a stay-at-home mom or like a professional mom, like one that goes to work?
My dream would be to be a stay-at-home mom.
So your career, your income, none of that really matters then if you're going to be a stay-at-home mom, because that's all going to get abandoned to raise the babies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what you need is a successful guy.
Yeah.
So successful guys are usually not 24. They're usually your age or older, because it takes a guy like a little while to work into that sort of, success in his life.
I would say that's totally fair. The 24-year-old that I'm talking about definitely was one of those ones that was successful, which is great. But I don't even think it's just about that. I think a lot of it is just obviously maturity and kind of understanding who you are.
What do you think he needs to make to sort of take care of you and a family in Detroit, like on an annual basis?
I mean, that's a great question. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think it's all about your priorities. I think it's all about what your priorities are. I think there's a lot of people that.
No, it's kind of a loosey question. I mean, I'm going to hold you accountable to this one. So, I mean, if you want to be a stay-at-home mom, you want to raise the babies, that would be your dream, and you live in Detroit. I mean, you must have thought about what he must earn to facilitate that dream, right?
I think I've seen people do this sort of thing in different ranges. I mean, I think realistically, you'd want someone that's making six figures. I think that would make it probably a more comfortable lifestyle for what I'm looking at.
Well, I mean, six figures is 100,000 and 999,000. Like those are two very different numbers. Like what would you have to?
I would say, yeah, if you're making $100,000, like you could probably have a modestly comfortable life in this area.
So there's got to be loads of guys in Detroit that make 100 grand that are, qualified to marry you and put babies in you, though.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm having some really weird encounters.
Okay, so talk about the weird encounters then. So what's happening?
Well, there was a recent one. So I was chatting with this guy for a while. He seemed really funny. He seemed really cool. So he asked me out on a date. We met up for a drink, and then we walked down the street. We went and got some oysters and some more drinks, and we literally talked for hours. He was like super funny, really intelligent, and we just had a really good time. He was in law enforcement, like just was like a dude, like a normal dude, which is like not an easy thing to find, I feel like. And after the date, he texted me and he just like told me what a great time he had and like how attractive he thought I was. And I was like, awesome, like this is great. He texted me the next day, we talked, and then completely just like went into the ether. Like I didn't hear from him. And normally I would just let it go. Something shifted. He, decided he didn't like me for whatever reason. But this really kind of bothered me. And it was like on my mind. I was like, no, like, I'm not saying every guy that I meet like falls desperately in love with me, but also like I have a pretty good barometer, like when someone likes me and when they don't. And this guy was into me, right? So I get drunk one night. It's like 11:15. It was a Friday. And I decided to text him. And all I said was, hey, I'm a little mad at you, FYI. He responds immediately and he says, hey, I totally get that. I'm so sorry. I just have a lot going on right now. And I figured it was best for me to be on my own for a little bit, which obviously sounds like a total bullshit excuse. So I just replied and I said, okay. I said, thank you for telling me. And I was just going to leave it at that. But then he continues and he was like, no, he's like, I'm not bullshitting you. He was like, I'm being totally serious. And he proceeds to tell me like, I was just at this family party on Saturday. My dad showed up dressed fully as a woman with all of the surgeries that you can't come back from. And that's how he decided to announce to all of us that he was trans. And, his family's very conservative, like whether you're conservative or not. I mean, this is going to throw everyone for a loop if this wasn't anything they were expecting. And he was like, that's just the tip of the iceberg. And he started to like get into more stuff. And I was just like thinking to myself, I'm like, what? Like, this is the kind of crazy stuff. It's like, you can't even make this up. So that was a recent one.
I mean, if I heard that story from a chick, I'd just be like, bullshit, and move on.
That's what I was
Well, I did.
thinking. I'm like, bullshit.
I did move on. I definitely didn't get the sense that he was being dishonest. Like, I really didn't. That was actually the first
it's entirely
thing
plausible in today's world that could have happened. I mean, 30 years ago, as I tell you to pound sand, but it's entirely possible today that could have happened. But that's just part of the numbers game. So that's just one guy. I mean, surely you've dated more than one guy. I mean, there must have been some other options out there.
Yeah, there was another guy before him. He was actually a single dad. And so that's kind of why I found that conversation so interesting earlier. But, in his situation, lots of baby mama drama, no good relationship there. So that made things really tough. He had the kid 50% of the time. It was really difficult. So it's like, it's a lot of things that I think both men and women are wading through right
Mhm.
now that are just things that like our parents did not have to deal with. I don't think anyone could have prepared us for what the dating scene is right now in
Yeah, but
2023.
like, you know, Jillian, you're 35. Like, when did you decide that you wanted to have a family and children?
When did I decide? Probably when I was 28. Like for sure.
So,
I always knew I wanted to have like a family and stuff like that, but like for sure when I was 28, like I made a lot of changes in my life to
I
make
mean, you're
sure
coming
that
up
that
on
was more
7
of a
years though.
focus.
So why is it not happening?
I would say like I had long-term relationships that just didn't work out the way that I wanted them to.
What do you think of the notion that a woman, as she gets older, um, and she's sort of gone through life and experienced more men and has more bag, like, do you think that you're as like an equal prospect to a guy as somebody Kenzie's age? You know, for example, like a woman that's younger?
I
Do you
think
think
it
you have this
depends
pull?
on I think it depends on the person and what you care about. You know what I mean? I think that for me personally, when I was 23, I was a totally different person than I am today. And I actually think that the knowledge and wisdom and the experience and just everything I've been through, I actually think I'm better aligned for the partner who would be a better fit for me. I don't even think I knew who I was when I was 23. I think I was stupid,
Do you
you know,
think
and
you've
I'm not
raised your
saying that
standards?
about Kenzie.
Do you think you've raised your standards since you're 23?
I think my standards are different. You know, I think when I was 23, I wanted like a super hot, ripped dude. I think now that's not like on the top of my priority list. I think there's other things that I care about a lot more.
So you'll make a few concessions. You can be a little bit of a dad bod. It's not as important.
Yeah.
It's more,
Yeah.
he's got the ability to provide for a family, right?
And wants
What
those things. Yeah.
And
what
wants
are
those
some of
things as well.
these pieces of wisdom and experience that you think makes you more valuable now than maybe you were 12 years ago?
I think I just have more. I was raised in a very traditional household, and I think I fell into the trap that a lot of girls do, especially when you're young. Like I went to college and had all these like really toxic ideas pumped into my head. And like I also worked in radio for 10 years. So that was pretty crazy. I was like moving around for these jobs, and that's not really conducive to having, you know, a normal life or a family. I thought it was cool to be like interviewing celebrities and doing all this stuff. And at the time, sure, it was great, but you know, those aren't the things that really matter to me at the end of the day. The pay, what I was sacrificing wasn't worth it. And I think like my priorities are just different. Like I think I value things that are of more substance. I think what I'm looking for is of more substance.
Hold on
So,
really quick, Rich. I want to get to
yeah,
Kenzie
go
in a
ahead.
second after this, but so what I'm hearing is this was sort of the result of basically like toxic feminism, telling you to go be the boss babe, go make the money, you can wait, push it off, do all these things, make all this money, get all these degrees, and then you'll have, you know, all these men line about your door when
A
you've
little
already
bit. I
done
mean,
that.
I would say I was more moderate. I was never like a super feminist or anything like that, but I guess I just thought it would naturally happen. You know, like I thought, oh yeah, like I'm just naturally going to meet that guy. We're naturally just going to get married, and it's not something I really have to prioritize or focus on. And I think that that's something that, you know, I definitely wish I would have had a better perspective on when I was younger, for sure.
I really hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full-length podcast, you can find that over here, that clip's from. If you're newer to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe over here and pin down below in the top comment. You'll find a bunch of useful links to my website, my supplement line books, and a bunch of other stuff. Have an amazing day. Peace out.